Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is just a bit of animation, so more aesthetic. At the moment you'll notice that when I click the save button, this just appears. There's no animation associated with it whatsoever. What I'm going to now do is define the show option, and we can do things like fade, all the usual jQuery animations, so you can go ahead and look these up. But now when I click save, you can see that fades in as opposed to actually just appears, so perhaps looks a bit nicer depending on the application that you're creating. And we can choose more fun things like bounce if it's applicable to what you're trying to do. You can see it just bounced in, and now we can click OK. I find this one to be a bit annoying, but there you go, it depends on what kind of application you're creating, but by default it's just set to show, so that means that it will just appear and nothing else. Now another important thing to look at is the modal option. Now modal is when you have a dialog box appear, and this will become center stage almost, and anything else will be disabled. So at the moment, for example, if we were to click save and it said setting to saved, we might be able to then we will be able to then carry on using the website as normal. So let's say you had a variety of other buttons and menus, the user would be able to carry on using your website, and they would just be able to leave this dialog box open. So what we can do is we can go ahead and we can set modal to to true, and this will automatically allow or create the dialog box as the main window, and we have to close that before we can do anything else. It will also apply a really nice background image to show this effect, so it almost that's not worked, so modal, not model. It will set this nice background faded image, and we can't actually click any other buttons. So we've got our dialog box up, and we've got no choice but to click OK, or close this off, or any other buttons you might want to specify before we can return to our normal site and start to use some of the other functionality. So modal is a really great way of allowing this really quickly, and also with this nice background image as well, that doesn't allow or sort of simulates to the user that they're unable to use anything else on the website. So the last option we're going to take a look at is the positioning of this window. Now you might want the window positioned in a particular place, so I'm just going to use a comma here to separate and come down so it's a bit neater, and I'm going to go ahead and set position. Now position can be textual with regards to giving it a single piece of text, for example top. If we were to set the position to top, this would automatically appear at the top of the screen. I could also then just change this to bottom, and that would then appear at the bottom of the screen. And the only problem with this is that we can't supply different parameters, so we can't say top center, for example, or we can't say top left. This isn't going to work, it will return an error, or it won't return an error, but it's not going to allow us to work. So you can either specify a single option, so for example top or center, which is set to by default anyway, so that shouldn't really be too much of a problem. But we can also go ahead and set numerical values, so I could say 100 by 100, and this will space it from the top left hand corner, or the left top hand corner of the page. So now when I refresh and click save, you can see that's 100 by 100 away from the edge of the screen, the very top hand corner of the screen. So you can specify this any dimension you like, and that will place that onto the page. Now alternatively, if you wanted to use the top or the textual in conjunction with each other, you can do this in an array. So we can specify two different options. For example, if we were to supply top left, now what's going to happen here is this is going to produce this isn't going to work. It's not going to produce an error, but this isn't going to work. And the reason being is that left is where we start the very left hand side of the screen, so down here, what is essentially the y-axis we start at. So when we supply top left, it's not actually going to work. So let's go ahead and check that out. You'll see that it's just in the center still. So this is because we always start at the left hand side. So we're positioning it at the left hand side, and then we're positioning it at the top. So if this isn't working for you and you're returning an error, make sure you're supplying the X direction before you supply the Y direction. So left is essentially translated into a coordinate of the X axis, left, right or center, and the Y is either top, center or bottom. So we need to supply the X axis before we supply the Y. So now I've put this position as left top. You can see that we have it at the very top hand corner at the left. So now that we've changed this positioning around, it's worked. So it's important to note things like this when you are writing your code. Okay, so that's a bit about the jQuery dialog, the jQuery UI dialog. Let's just go ahead and get rid of this for now. And you can see that it's extremely easy to implement a dialog and create the functionality geared towards the site that you're creating. You see here we've created something that can't be moved and essentially is a prettier JavaScript dialog. Instead we're using a div. So the initial advice I gave about just keeping this dialog as standard means that you could then go here, and if you had another button down here, you could then change the dialog title and the dialog text to suit you before you show it. So you can apply this single div to a lot of other events as well. So that's a quick demonstration and a bit about the options inside the jQuery UI dialog window.